Hiyo YouTubians, Reverend Thodin here again. It's been a while, sorry about that. I'm just getting over a bit of a cold, so forgive my voice. I've sounded a little bit better. Yeah, we've had some shenanigans go down at work, so we've all been we've had our energies rather thinly spread. Our general manager got fired like 3 days after one of our two assistant managers gave his 1 week notice. And then, literally, like 2 days after that, one of my two other coworkers gave his notice because he's starting a course. So, yeah, it's been really busy at work. I've been working a lot of overtime. So, I apologize for my neglect. I am back. We got a new girl who I'm training now, so it's starting to kind of even out a little bit. But today I'm answering two YouTube Pagan Challenge questions. One, do I keep a journal, or a magical journal, or anything of the sort? What are my views on it? And the moon phases. What is my take on the moon phases? Do I observe them? How do I see them? So to start, yes, I do keep a journal. I wouldn't necessarily call it a magical journal. It's just kind of like a generic journal. It's not even like a diary kind of thing. I used to keep a very, very detailed... I used to have like 3 journals that were filled when I lived with my mom. I don't even know how long ago that was now. Would have been 5 years ago when I stopped writing in those. But I had been keeping them for 3 years. And it was really weird. It was like a very, very accurate, very detailed, very meticulously thought out almost record of each day, and it wasn't really my emotions or thoughts about what had happened, it was just what happened. And like as specific as what I was wearing that day, what was sitting on the table in front of me, who I had seen, who was sitting in front of me, even if I didn't know who they were, just like writing down the details of the people that were around me, like what they were wearing, what I had learned in class. It's just so that, like, 2 years down the road, when I went back and looked at that entry, I knew exactly what had happened that day. Like, I remembered, like, exactly what kind of headspace I was in at that time. And it was really neat. It was really neat. It took a while for it to actually be worth looking back on, because, you keep a journal for a month, so, like, look back a month from now, and it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. But when it's, like, 3 years ago, and you look back at something, you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot all about that, and, like, it just takes you right back to that instance. And, like, it wasn't a magical journal by any means, but it was very seriously attended to by me. And I stopped when my mom threw them all out, because I wrote them in Futhark, in the Elder Futhark runes, and she didn't appreciate it. She wanted to be able to read it. And so she just threw them out and said she didn't want to see it in her house anymore. And I was like, alright. So I just stopped writing, which is sad. But I just started writing again. Probably about 6 months ago, and it's not even really a journal. It's not written in any cipher at all, because I have no one here really to snoop, and it's not really something that I take out with me and write down, like, my experiences in the day. It's more so just like things that I'm studying, things that I take an interest in, things that, like, it's not even, like it's a scrapbook. It's something I got from the dollar store, right? But it's like I practice drawing the flower of life. I, like, just a whole bunch of notes of and, like, diagrams and, like, interesting things. Like, this is kind of spiritual. Like, this is 7 ways to connect to your deity. Or by whatever path a man shall seek me, even so do I welcome him, for the paths men take from every side are mine. That's a spiritual quote I had heard from Kelly Ann Maddox. I love her. She's great. But yeah, and it's just like, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Anything that I study at length, I just write down, because I retain things better when I write them. And it's not even all the same subject matter. Jeez, like, half of this is upside down, for God's sake. Like, this is just a study of the English language and its history, because I found it interesting at the time. So, like, I do journal, and I write a lot. Like, I filled up this entire book. I got another book here, and, like, just started, like, writing pages upon pages upon pages upon pages of stuff that just interests me. And then I actually did start writing a journal in the sense that I did when I lived with my mom. Started writing again. This time it's in Theban. I love Theban. I'm not very far in it yet, but like you can see, I do journal a bit. It's definitely a work in progress. That's where it ends. And I'm looking forward to seeing it evolve. And journaling to me is very important because it's something that it's a good record to keep. It lets you track your progress. It lets you see how far you've come, you know? And I'm a strong believer in that yourself is the best teacher, because it takes regurgitating something in your own words for you to realize that you truly understand what it is that you're talking about, you know? And that's kind of the reason I started making YouTube videos, because I know from experience that teaching is one of the best ways to learn, and most people have realized this. Like, if you've not tried to teach someone something you're passionate about, I really encourage you to do so, because you don't realize what your true understanding of something is until you have to relay it to someone else. Because then you put it into your own words, into the way that you understand it and the way that you've internalized it. It kind of exposes your subconscious to yourself. And for that, I find journaling is very, very useful, a very pragmatic way of relating to your own intellect. And that's very important to me. I'm a rather intellectual person, at least I'd like to think. And, I mean, in a sense, that can kind of be my downside, or downfall at the same time. But regardless. So yeah, I actually am also kind of the persuasion that if you can kind of relate to your intellect without journaling, it's great. That's great. If you can just kind of call upon your experience and your knowledge at random, like extemporaneously, then it's all the better, because then you don't have to sit there and rehearse it over and over again, right? But it's still, I think, regardless of how well you can do it extemporaneously, like off the fly of your, or off the cuff, whatever. That's what extemporaneously means if you didn't know. It's just, journaling is helpful. Journaling is very, very helpful. That's all I'm trying to get across here. Anyway, so, now for the phases of the moon, I'd say, see, that one is kind of a complicated subject, and it goes really deep into my practice, because I've been, I was Wiccan from the beginning of my journey, and it's, well, pagan journey. And so the moon has a huge influence on my practice. Now, it's not as pervasive as other Wiccans that I know of, for whom the moon is like the ultimate deity for them. It's like their patron and patroness. The moon for me is not more important than, but equal to the sun. And I'm a huge sun guy. I love the sun. But I do kind of see the moon as both feminine and masculine, because I know a lot of pagans and a lot of Wiccans see the moon as being feminine. But I kind of like to incorporate femininity and masculinity into the same thing as much as possible, regardless if it's the moon or the sun or the woods or anything, really. If there is a binary to it, if there is a way to see it as both masculine and feminine, I will see it that way, because I like to incorporate that kind of dualistic quality within my entire being, not just my spiritual being, but every part of my life. So, in that sense, Thoth, who I've talked about in previous videos, he's one of my patrons, and he is a god of the moon. He's a lunar deity. And so I see Thoth in the moon, and Thoth is very important to me. Shiva is also a very lunar deity. I see him in the moon. But I also see, Diana and Aryan Road and, to an extent, Hecate and various other goddesses as being associated with the moon. And it's kind of the moon is that, like, lunar. When you think of the word lunar, things that are associated, things that actually derive from that word lunar are words such as lunatic or lunacy. Just as one of the words for Jupiter was Jove or Jove, and jovial is derived from Jupiter, Jove. The moon is kind of representative to me of the subconscious, of what you don't really understand without having it kind of revealed to you. It's kind of revealed knowledge. It's wisdom. And in that sense, I really, really take the archetype, or like the message, I guess you could call it, of the moon to heart, because the moon is kind of what you're seeking. The moon, the power and the influence of the moon is that which you are seeking to attain. Like, it's been said, if you wish to find me, or no, God, how's it go? It's like, if you know not the mystery, you will never find me, for I am that which is found within, or something to that effect. I can never quote things out of context, it's annoying. But yeah, it's in the goddess charge. And so it's not something you're really going to look for, it's something that you are attuning to within yourself. The moon is your inner part, your innermost self, and the way that you express yourself. And the phases of the moon, to me, are just the different ways, the different phases of self-expression. It's something kind of manifests as thought, or something presents itself as thought, and then manifests as action, and then has kind of a denouement as the integration of it into your life, and to kind of continue it and perpetuate it so as to enable you to start something new and unrelated. And to me, that's kind of what the phases of the moon are. And the moon also, to me, is kind of like the crystal in the sky. It's like, what I mean by that, it's like a correspondence. It's a correspondence in the sky that's ever changing. So whatever you're working for, whatever you might be focusing on spiritually, the moon has an effect on it. Like, most people would know that during the full moon there are more crimes. There are, like, people go lunatic. There are lunatics during the phase of the full moon, and that's because we are mostly water. And as most people know, the moon has a direct effect on water. It causes it to expand, to move outwards. And that has an effect on the human body, considering we're more than half water. We are and as such, our emotions, every part of our being is affected by what happens to that water. And if you don't know how to correctly attune yourself to the changes within your tides, within your own inner tides, then it becomes chaotic, it becomes lunacy. And to me, that's kind of what attuning yourself to the phases of the moon is for. It's to try and kind of balance your psychic tide, your lunar tide, so as to be productive with the influence of the lunacy in the sky. And so the moon is kind of like the correspondence that you always have to try and work with. It'll always help you, but it's kind of like a very large crystal that you're assigned every day. Now, I don't always work for something that you're supposed to work for at certain phases or at certain times of the moon phase, or the moon cycle. Like, I don't only manifest during a full moon. I don't only banish during the waxing or during the waning moon. But I will definitely take it into account. And if I'm trying to manifest something, like in the dark moon or in the late phases of the waning moon, I'll make sure that I kind of compensate for the waning of the moon, or I will try and use the waning of the moon in a way that would aid the work that I'm doing. And so to me, that's kind of what the moon is. It's an ever-changing correspondence that you can try and attune yourself to, and that when you do attune yourself to properly, is productive, very effective in your life. And if you don't really attune yourself well to it, it can end up with you becoming almost a lunatic when your inner tides, become overrun with this rapid expansion and just kind of chaotic movement within yourself. And yeah, that's basically my take on the phases of the moon and how I see the moon in general. So thank you for watching. Please do subscribe if you liked it and you want to see more from me. Question, comment down below. You know, I would love to have some questions to answer. I'm always down for that. I love questions. And I'd like to learn a little bit more. So, and like I said, teaching is one of the best ways to learn. So help me learn, guys, and I want to help you learn too. Thank you for watching again, and until next time, merry part and blessed be.